Hi. Boo. Boo. Toby.
Now,
Found you.
one slight issue I have. Can you hear me? No,
I can hear you.
you can. I
Yes.
can't
I
hear
can hear.
you. So let me try and work out why that might be. Bear with. I'm so sorry. What an auspicious start to this program. Bear with me just a moment.
It's very busy over there
Ah,
behind
there we
you.
go. I've got you loud and clear.
Let me just take it all in. I think we have not spoken since like 1993,
It's
maybe.
incredible.
And I
Wow.
used to hear my parents say things like that. Haven't seen you in 20 years. I'd be like, oh my God, you're such a dinosaur.
Well, I have to say, you look great for 50.
Thanks. Boom, Tish. Mm. Have you
Oh,
been waiting to say that?
I have, yeah. Now that just came to me. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, I have to control myself. This is crazy. I have to say, apart from the replacement of the hair, you haven't really changed.
Nor have you. Honestly, it's
Well, we
quite
kid ourselves. Obviously, we have got extra like wrinkles and stuff, but
a
yeah, I can't
few.
see them.
Well, hang on, look, crow's feet, definitely. You can see there.
Yeah,
Well,
thankfully those don't
yeah.
show up on StreamYard. Nah.
Oh, well, that's good. Thank heaven. Are you? Have you switched to anti-crow's feet mode?
Yes, exactly. I activated it before you arrived.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for that.
And
You knew.
and do you have coffee with you?
I have in my BBC Three Counties muglet.
I want one of those. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can send you one, no problem.
Oh, I don't know where to begin, Toby, honestly. Right, start with an introduction of you. Tell me everything.
Okay, so I'm Toby Friedner. I obviously, well, I know you from school, as you've said. So we both went to JFS. We were in the same class, weren't we? I think
We
we were in the
were.
same tutor group. In fact, I have a homework diary from when I was in. Remember
Do
those?
you remember what the name of the class was? Because I remember our first class, what it was called. Do you remember? They used to grade
My
it,
goodness.
class like one, and then the teacher that
ZR.
you had, one RZ and
Yes.
one ZR, they
One
switched
RZ.
it around.
Yes, yes. Because we were in the Zangwill house. And oh, I couldn't tell you who. I
And
remember
R
this
was for the
for the
whoever
teacher, I
taught us.
guess. Yeah, absolutely. Wow,
I
wow.
met someone recently and I had to guess what house he was in, and it was like watching Harry Potter, like whether he was a Gryffindor or. And you can tell if someone's like an
And
angel or a
you
Brodetsky or a
can,
Zangwill or
you
what was the other
can.
one,
They had an identity. They absolutely did.
but
It,
without the sorting hat.
without the sorting hat, it was really interesting. And I don't quite know how obviously it was a dark art at the time how they all did it. They put who into which house, but yeah, they all seem to fit. So yeah, we went to school together, and from 1986, I think, to 1993, we were in school together. And as you say, haven't seen you for all of those years, apart from on Facebook. And that is it has its faults, obviously, social media, and is blamed for a lot of bad in the world. But there is one lovely thing about it, or at least one lovely thing about it, and that's this connecting people and the way that it connects people. And that's been
Absolutely.
such a lovely thing, particularly at the moment as well. Seeing people. There are some people that I would never like to see again, but there are some people
Yeah, and that is also the joy of Facebook. If you use it properly, you don't have to see them again.
Quite.
right? Like, who
Absolutely.
asked you to have unpleasant people on your newsfeed?
Yeah,
Just get rid of them.
exactly. And so after when I finished school, I went to university. I went to university in Luton, um,
Okay.
which was it's a really interesting place. As a Jewish boy from northwest London, going to somewhere that is a world away from where I lived and what I
Yeah.
was
Hang on.
used
Where did
to.
you grow up? Which part of
Edgware,
Northwest London?
Edgware.
Oh, I didn't
Mm,
remember that.
yeah, you were
Do you remember
Barnet,
where
weren't
I
you?
work? Yes. Very
Yes,
good.
yes, I do remember. Um, it was a very different environment, but it was brilliant. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. And the amount of people that I met, and the new and different types of people that I was introduced
Right.
to. And what was lovely was that it was near enough to home that I could get home in half an hour if I needed to, but further enough away for me to feel like I was independent. And I did a media degree, and I came out of that. And pretty much instantly got a job, which was amazing, in an industry that I've always wanted to work in, which is radio. And that's what I do now. So I'm a senior journalist at a local BBC radio station. That's Simon behind me, who's our newsreader. And I've worked here for 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a long time.
It is a long time, and on and off. I mean, I've been. I did a couple of stints in various different places, but um, it's a job for life if you want it.
Right.
And I'm very lucky to have been able to do that. So yeah, that's where I am. And then in my personal life, I'm married, been married 15 years, got
Well
4
done.
children. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, well done with that as well.
Got the medal, and yeah, got 4 kids, got a dog. Live
Oh,
in Buckinghamshire, in Cheshire, in Buckinghamshire. And yeah, it's all was going well until coronavirus
until
came
it
along.
wasn't. Yeah.
Until it wasn't, absolutely. Yeah.
Wait, and what did I want to ask you? You were in Luton, you started work there. What do you do as a senior journalist?
So the role is many and varied. There's lots of different jobs to do, from directly producing programs, to line managing people, to I'm arranging an award ceremony at the moment, which is not actually going to be a ceremony. It's all going to be done virtually.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and local radio is one of those places where you can do everything. You know, give me a broom and I'll
Right.
sweep up. Uh, you do all sorts of different things, and that's the beauty of it. In network radio, you're often pigeonholed into one specific job, doing one
Ah,
specific
I
thing.
see.
But in local radio, it's very much, you do lots of different things, and you meet lots of different people all the time. So I had a role in the past where I was responsible for going out and making external partnerships and meeting, deliberately going out and meeting different groups of people from minority ethnic communities, all sorts of different people, and trying to kind of get them involved in the BBC and make the BBC more part of their lives than it currently was. Um, so tons of different stuff.
I
I've been
guess it helps that you have the gift of the gab. You're not really afraid to talk to people. I remember that very well
no,
about you. Very,
uh,
very confident.
a blessing and a
Or
curse.
how can that be a curse? How is that a curse?
I
Explain.
don't know. I suppose. I guess sometimes people, it can be. I think over the years I've learned to temper myself. Because if you remember, I was always the one in class putting my hand up, always the one making a joke, trying to be funny and silly,
You're
and
hilarious.
you know,
You're
being an
hilarious.
idiot. But I think you learn to rein that in. And I think if you are, particularly if you're line managing people, and if you're trying to lead people, and get people to come along with you, it's about them. And I think over the years you realize that as my wife says, it's not always about you, it's about others.
Right.
And and I think that's the change. And that when I say a curse, what I mean is, if you don't change, and if you don't do that, and if you don't kind of rein in and show a level, to an extent it's about humility as well, and show a level of humility, then it can work against you, and people don't interact with you in the same way.
Mm. See, that's
And
very interesting that you say this, because you had to rein yourself in. I had to come from the other side of the shy introvert who wouldn't say boo to a goose and never spoke in class ever.
do you
Used to
think you were?
blush.
I don't remember you as that.
How do you not remember that? I used to blush. Other people remember it. If I put my hand up, my whole face would flush, and then certain people would be like, "Oh, she's blushing! Look, she's blushing." So I had to bring myself the other way, and meet people further along that spectrum. Otherwise, I was just never going to get anywhere.
How did you do that?
It was literally like case studies, like studying people like Talia Kaplan, bless her.
I loved
I
her.
told her, I told her
Loved her.
recently, or not recently, it was probably about a year or 2 years ago, that when I had to start going for job interviews, I had to learn things like making eye contact, opening my mouth more to speak so people could hear me, raising my voice a bit higher. Hello.
That was Jane, who's our afternoon newsreader.
Meeting everybody today. Yeah, I had to like study people. It's like, okay, think of confident people. What do they do? It's like when people say that they're doing a diet, watch skinny people and see what they eat. And it was really interesting because Talia was one of those people who just didn't care what people thought. She was just the Duracell bunny with a boundless energy, and she would just go for it. Want to do something, go for it. Want to say something, say it. It just never seemed to occur to her to worry about other people, and I could see how. I mean, we always used to laugh because whenever there were photos happening in school, like, do you remember when Natan Sharansky came to school?
Yes, yes.
So my mum said to me, get wherever Talia is, just follow her. If you want to get in the picture, just be where she is. And I did. And we got in the photo. I was like, I really wish I could find this picture. It used to be on the alumni site, but it's vanished now. It's Natan Sharansky, me, Talia, and a couple of other people, Caroline, I think. It was just so funny. And the monster raving Looney party that came to school, she was front row. So yeah, it was like just study people as if I was an alien and I needed to learn, like, how do you do this? And then eventually fake it till you learn it. Not fake it till you make it, just fake it till you become it. And then it just becomes part of you. Something like that. Anyway, I think there's other things that you can't fake. But anyway, I want to try and get onto the topic of parenting during Corona, because I'm very interested to hear about your challenges. Same amount of kids, but different ages. How old are your kids?
15, 13, 12, and 4. And
do people say to you, "Oh, there's a big gap between the 4-year-old
yeah,
and the 12-year-old"?
yeah,
And
they
what's your
do.
answer?
I say, I normally come up with some funny quip about, I don't know. What do I no. What I would normally say is, I've tied a knot in it now, or I've bought a telly, or something like that.
I bought a dog.
Bought a dog, exactly. So I have something
Oh,
else to
brilliant.
occupy myself. But what about yours? How old are they?
So we are, let's think about this, 22, 20, yeah, gasp, 15 and 7. So
Man
that's why I
alive!
asked,
Oh
because like the
gosh, yeah,
15 and the
yeah,
7,
yeah.
same gap. And when people hear that, they're like, oh, quite a gap between them. And then if I'm in a bad mood, I'll be like, yes, we tried for a long time to have children. It just took a while. And they'll be like, oh. If I'm feeling kind, I'll say something much nicer.
But actually, I mean, I hear what you're saying. People don't really care that much. I mean, they might raise a slight eyebrow, but I think because all of my children are still school age, maybe it makes less of an impact when you hear, in your circumstance where you have a 22-year-old and a
22, yeah.
7-year-old, that's quite a gap. And, I suppose people, I'm guessing, are more inclined to react with surprise than they are when I tell them I've got a 15-year-old and a 4-year-old. I don't know, but my thing is, being the 50-year-old at the school gate. So in 4 years' time, when Isaac's coming up to 9, I'm 50. But I don't know.
Whatever.
Hope,
I don't know.
whatever. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So
It was, but yeah, it's just, I was done with a certain period of my life of parenting. And then as someone very kindly put it, you reset the clock. You were just about done with nappies and buggies and babysitters and vomit and all of those things, and you reset the clock. I like to think of it in a much more positive way than that.
yeah. It's amazing and it's wonderful. And when we had Isaac, and it was brilliant, obviously, and all the other kids were great, and his siblings obviously have loved it, but it does present its challenges. I mean,
Yeah,
it really does, and and we have never felt it more than now.
right. Because
So,
we're old.
well, I think, I don't think that matters. I think as long as you're fit and as long as you're
Yeah,
mentally you're happy and things
interesting.
are
Okay.
good, I don't think that matters. I genuinely don't think that matters.
So what
I
are you
don't.
feeling then? It's just,
It's lockdown. It's been the
oh,
challenge.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
You mean
Oh,
right now.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right now, this moment, it has been among the most intense experiences of my life.
Yes.
Uh, you Laura's working from home, my wife, and she has a really full-on job. She's in HR, and so she's doing all of the where she works. She's doing all the furloughing. She's doing all the all of that, her and her team.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
with Isaac screaming in the background about wanting to watch Fireman Sam, and it's just not conducive. So he's gone from being this very lovely, placid, happy-go-lucky, going routine. He had his lovely routine and all his siblings around him, and because we can't give him the attention that he craves. And because he's not getting the routine of nursery school and his friends and all of that sort of stuff, we're seeing a change in his behaviour. And this morning he flying kicked Laura. She
Oh my
jumped.
goodness.
I know, and it was just like, oh my god, what are you? What have you become? And
Mm,
broadly speaking, thankfully he's fine, and I don't think there will be lasting repercussions. But kids remember emotions,
yes.
and
I was just going to
and
say they remember how they feel.
they remember how they feel. And
Yep.
he's obviously been feeling, and he tells us, bless him, he
Oh.
communicates really well, and he tells us, and he, don't leave me, don't go, it's all about attention and being there. And and the
Mm,
irony of that is Laura was commuting into London every day and I was going off to work, and yet he felt more secure because of his routine, and he had a lovely nursery school and all that, than he does now.
right. Yeah.
um, and it's been
Well,
quite
it's
interesting.
not just the
Did
lack of routine, it's the conversations that go on around them. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but to begin with, I think it was end of February, beginning of March, must have been end of February, that in my son's school, they had the conversation where they explained to the kids what it was. And I was so cross. Like, how dare they burst the bubble? Because I just wasn't having that conversation with him. How dare you worry him? And he's going to add it to his list of things that he has to worry about. He's a big worrier. Um, and then we reached the point where it was like, how can you not talk about it in front of them? Never mind sitting them down, having the conversation with them. Like, I wasn't ready for that, and the school did it. But it's just so part of everyone's day-to-day conversations now. And, he deserves to be part of the conversation.
Why didn't you talk to him? Um,
I did not get, I made a big decision for my mental health last year sometime. I took Facebook off my phone. I stopped consuming news. I was doing a lot of work on myself, and I realized I couldn't do that when I was worrying about global warming and, there were so many things I was worrying about. So I made a decision to stop reading news, basically, for the foreseeable future. And I figured if something really important was going on, someone would tell me about it. And then fast forward to the coronavirus, I really wasn't getting it. I flew to London the first week of February. I saw masks in the airport. I'm like, what the hell? Then I spent a week gallivanting around London on London Underground, here, there, and everywhere, without giving it a moment's thought. No one in England was giving it any thought. So yeah, I was like ostrich with a head in the sand until my eldest was due to travel, and we had to make a decision about whether it was a good idea for her to go or not. She was asking for my opinion. What do you think? What do you think? Because England hadn't yet kind of done anything. There was no lockdown or anything.
no.
And then I had to open up, some websites and read some statistics. And I'm like, damn. So, until then, it wasn't a conversation that I just thought, this is something that's happening elsewhere. We don't need to have this conversation. I don't need to bring him another thing to worry about, because he was already worried about our house being hit by a meteorite, or meteoroid, as he kept calling it, whether he would be reincarnated into a different family he didn't love as much as us, whether he's eaten enough to keep his cholesterol at a good level, eaten enough of the right foods.
Wow.
He's 7. So can you see why I didn't want to add to the list?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Gosh. Oh. So, but there's that, isn't there? How do you tell them, and what do you tell them, and how much do you tell them? So my father-in-law has been in hospital in the last couple of days, and he had to go into intensive care. And Laura was saying, I don't want to tell the kids because I don't want to worry them. And that's your first instinct, isn't it? That is your immediate, you don't want to worry your children. Why should you? If they don't need to know, why tell them? And I said, well, the word, I think in the long term, that's worse. I think.
You're right. It's your first
Because
instinct, and then you need to expand on that.
I think you do. I think you do. I think you at least just need to give it some thought and have a discussion about it, and think, all right, if you come to the conclusion that perhaps now, for the moment, you don't say stuff, fine, absolutely fine. And if you can, if you've got some really good reasons for that, no problem at all. But just don't let it go on too long. The worst thing that could happen, I think, is that they find out somehow, with a situation like that, one of their relatives in hospital, if they find out some other way. Emily is 15, and is in touch with her cousins, and so we told them. I managed to persuade her, and we told them yesterday, and it was what it was, and they were upset, and understandably, but
Yeah.
so that's been another thing to think about. How has Israel handled lockdown, and where are you? So we're sort of coming out of it now. Schools hopefully back in completely in September. What stage are you at?
Well, it's interesting that they're planning, because I think what's unfair is to say, right, by July 4th, we're lifting the lockdown and everything's going back to normal. And by September this, I just think it's very, very unfair. I think it's a really difficult, extremely difficult situation to be in, because no one's ever dealt with this before. But, having said that, I do think they dealt with it extremely well here. Like, it was kind of like, we need to value human life over everything. Like, human life is sacred, and that's how they operate across the board, is that the preservation of even one life is worth it. So let's just shut everything down, close the borders, like close the airport, no flights are going to be coming in, lockdown was like we eased into it gradually, but you knew where it was heading. And I think because of that, the numbers are very low and they continue to stay low. People were plotting that numbers were getting high. They're not. It's just testing is going up. You know, if you look at it, if you look at the figures properly and see how many more tests they're doing per day, and people kept talking about first wave, second wave, third wave. It's nonsense. It's not a wave. It's exactly like we're still in it and we're going to be in it for a while. And I see a wave as more like it went away completely. We got back to normal life, and then next year it came back again. That would be second wave. So yeah, so we're being told that we're in a second wave, but I think that's full.
Does life feel normal?
Normal. So you have to wear a mask wherever you go. If you don't wear a mask, you get a very hefty fine. So I think that's really smart. Really, really smart. Hit people where it hurts in the pocket and they will listen. Israelis are very much like Mediterranean kind of style. They've no concept of body's personal space. So you'll be standing in line at a cash point and someone's over your shoulder. None of that. It has changed it for the better. It's amazing. This whole, you know, keeping 2 meters distance from each other. There are stickers everywhere in the street, in the banks, doesn't matter where you are. There's a sticker on the floor to say, you stand here and you stand here. And it's put an end to people standing over your shoulder and being on top of you. It's unbelievable. So that's been really amazing. What else is different? It's yes, the new normal is everyone outside wearing masks, standing apart from each other, having your temperature taken wherever you go. And I remember hearing about what they were doing. They were doing this in Italy. I'm like, oh, they've got stickers on the floor and they're scanning with temperatures. It's the same here. Coming up to like taking, you know, that test is they stick it up your nose, doing tests through car windows. And like in full hazmat bodysuits. Thankfully, I haven't had one of those. And signing into places, you sign in so that if someone has it, someone realizes they have it, you can trace it. You know, if I've signed in at this place and whatever time, they can figure out where I've been. And people just keeping to themselves, weddings, very, very small, functions online. Yeah, it's a new normal. It's a watered down, quite sad version, but I'm relieved that we managed to get back to something. Yeah. And I think that I hope that England will follow in the same way, that they're not going to think that they're going to go back to how it was. You can't.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So there's talk about, you know, wearing face masks all the time and, you know, all sorts of other ideas.
I have mine here. It goes around my neck.
Did you buy that in a shop or did someone make that for you?
This was made for me and I'm going to order more.
Well, so I have a homemade one as well. Because if I show it to you, see if you can guess which. It was a member of my family, and I know that you don't necessarily know them, but look at it. Look at that. Look. That.
Ooh!
In it.
That's really impressive.
Well, that
was. Who knows how to sew?
My mother.
Oh.
So there we are.
So tell me more about challenges. I want to know.
Yeah.
What else you've.
I think you know it's also dealing with the. I'm really worried. Oh my God, what does this mean? I want this all to go away. So Jessica is you say you have your sensitive one. I've got mine. And in fact, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my phone because she's tried to phone me about 4 times now. So I might need to answer the phone and see what the problem is.
I just had a missed call from my 15-year-old, but I'm sure it was something hilariously irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have to call her back in a minute, but you know, I found her the other evening in the fetal position, lying on her bed going, I wish this was all over. I don't like this anymore. I want to go back to school. I'm missing everybody, you know, and all that. And, you know, it's the being resilient yourself and, you know, talking them off the ledge and making sure that they're okay and that, you know, I think the most important thing about that is talking to us and making sure that they're
Yes.
talking to us and making sure that they're explaining how they're feeling. And it doesn't matter how upset they get or what they're saying, as long as they're telling us, that's
Yes.
that's
Yes,
the win.
and making them feel safe that you can tell me. Do you want
Exactly.
to call her?
Exactly. Do you
You want to
mind?
call
This
her
is
back?
that's the fifth time. Would you just excuse me? I'm really sorry.
We'll have a commercial break. Hmm.
Uh, Sarah, I'm really sorry. I think I'm going to have to go because she's really upset about something and I'm not sure what it is. But um, do you mind if we take this up again?
We could
the
definitely
the
take it up again. It
irony.
was wonderful. It's, yes, we're just digging into the challenges of parenting.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't be
Uh,
silly. I hope she's okay. Just update me.
I will. Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much for
I'll speak
joining.
to you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.